2 years after my husband left me for my closest friend, I was curled beneath an overpass with my little boy tucked under my coat. Rain came down like it meant to erase us. I wrapped him tighter, whispering, "Mom is here," even though my breath smoked from the cold. Headlights slid over the slick concrete. A long black sedan stopped where no car ever stopped. The door opened, and a man stepped out, hat brimming with rain. My blood froze. It was Mr. Langston, Marcus's father, the man I'd been told had mourned me, the man my husband swore believed I was dead. His face drained of color. "Nia?" His voice cracked like old wood. "You, Lord, you were supposed to be gone." I couldn't answer. My son coughed against my chest, thin and tired. Mr. Langston's hands shook as he knelt in the mud, suit ruined, pride forgotten. He touched my cheek like he was afraid I'd dissolve in the rain. "My boy lied to me," he whispered, eyes springing tears. He looked at my child, at Isaiah. Silence swallowed us, except for the rain's steady drumming and the rattling of my son's breath. In that hard, wet glow, I knew everything was about to change. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Before that rain-soaked night, there were 30 quiet years. 30 years of swallowing words until they tasted like iron. I married Marcus at 22, believing love could outlast storms. My hair's black shine turned to threads of silver while I waited on a miracle that would not come. We fasted, prayed, bought oils from storefront prophets, and sat under cold doctor lights that made hope feel silly. Each month drew blood, then disappointment. Marcus's hands, once gentle, grew restless. "Maybe next year," he'd say in the beginning, tapping my shoulder. Next year turned into never. His shoulders squared toward other rooms, toward younger laughter, tighter dresses, rounder bellies. I tended what I could. I kept a small patch of green behind our shotgun house, coaxing life from weak soil, singing to marigolds like they were babies with golden cheeks. I told myself vows were vows. I told myself endurance was holy. But the cost of silence is always collected. On my 51st birthday, my smile had edges and my bones felt hollowed. I still set an extra plate at dinner, out of habit and hunger for something I couldn't name. The only things that loved me back were the flowers. Even they dropped their heads at night. The evening it ended, I came in from the yard with dirt beneath my nails and hope under my tongue. Marcus was waiting in the front room, legs crossed, jaw set. A briefcase I'd never seen lay open on the coffee table like a mouth. "Sit," he said, not looking at me. I did. My stomach muttered, and the house hummed with the refrigerator's old ache. He slid papers toward me. They hissed softly across the wood. "Divorce." My name's spelled right, like a courtesy. "Marcus, what is this?" The question came out thin. His eyes held nothing for me. 30 years, Nia. 30 years and nothing to show. The words landed like stones. Nothing to show? Not the meals, the late-night prayers, the way I hid his shame so his mother wouldn't see? He leaned back, mouth curling. "I'm done carrying your emptiness." My throat closed. The sound in my ears changed, like the ocean in a shell. I tried to remember how to breathe. He didn't wait for my answer. He stood, opened the door, gestured toward the street, a salesman's sweep. "You got a suitcase," he said. "And you're God." That night, I walked out under a sky that wouldn't look at me. Windows watched. Doors stayed shut. I woke up to beeping and bleach. The world tilted, then settled. A nurse with soft eyes and a Bronx lilt stood above me, her hand warm on mine. "Ms. Nia," she said, checking the chart. "You passed out. Stress'll do that. But baby, you're about 6 weeks pregnant." The room went quiet enough to hear my heart remember how to beat. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "I can't, after all these years." Tears came, old ones and new ones, twins rushing down. The nurse squeezed, steady as a hymn. "Bodies do what they do. Yours decided to surprise you." I pressed my palm to my belly. The skin there felt both foreign and familiar. A seed? Now, after 30 years of empty calendars and crumpled test strips? Joy hit first, fierce and golden. Fear followed, thin and sharp. I had no home, no money, no plan, only my name and my stubbornness. I thought of Marcus's face when I'd show him the printout. I pictured redemption arriving like Sunday morning. A week later, wearing my one good dress, the blue one with the loose seam, I walked to our old block with that hospital paper folded in my purse like a promise. The street knew me. I didn't know it anymore. White ribbons and cheap laughter hit me before the gate. Cars lined the curb like teeth. Music poured from the porch, some love song they'd chosen to bless my funeral. I stopped, dressed suddenly too tight. Miss Pearl from next door peered at me like I was a bad dream. "Baby, you ain't heard," she said, adjusting her head wrap. "Marcus done married Tasha today." Tasha. My good friend who'd sat on the edge of my bed when cramps made me breathless, who'd passed me tissues and said, "Girl, he don't mean it." I saw her in a dress white as fresh paint, laughing with my old neighbors, her hand tucked into Marcus's elbow like it had always belonged there. My grip slipped. The papers fluttered out, skittering across the sidewalk like scared birds. No one stooped to help. No one even noticed. I swallowed the scream, because there was no one to pour it into. I walked past the house that had been my whole world, past the garden I'd sung lullabies to, past the smell of barbecue sauce and betrayal. Somewhere, far away, a train groaned. I understood then, you can be alive and be a ghost. You can be erased without dying. Night opened up long and cold. I bought a room by the hour with coins a stranger pressed into my hand outside the corner store. The mattress smelled like old rain. I lay on my side, arm draped over the small swell beneath my ribs. "Why now?" I asked the water-stained ceiling. "Why like this?" The room did not answer, just hummed with a tired air conditioner's cough. Days blurred. I learned the places where the church vans left sandwiches. I scrubbed floors for cash, pressed my fingers raw in back kitchens where no one asked my name. I moved like a shadow between shelters, listening more than speaking. The city made me invisible. People brushed past my belly and never saw it. I saw Marcus and Tasha once, stepping out of a shiny car. They looked happy in the way newlyweds perform happiness, bright, loud, expensive. When Tasha caught sight of me, she turned her face just enough to unsee me. Rumors reached me sideways. A funeral I hadn't attended, a eulogy said over a closed casket, Mr. Langston crying as he buried a daughter-in-law he believed he loved. They said donations poured in, lilies, cards, cash. They said the catering was tasteful. I laughed until my chest hurt. A little girl from the block, tiny braids with blue beads, found me behind the laundromat and pushed a loaf of bread into my hands. "Mama said share," she whispered. Her eyes flicked up, then away. "They said you died, Miss Nia." They had a big service. Mr. Langston wore a navy suit and dark glasses like the movies. I chewed without tasting. Paper-thin rage fluttered through me, bright and useless. I wanted to run to that big house in Riverbend Heights and bang on the iron gate. I wanted to scream, "Look at me. Touch me. I'm still here." But my body wasn't strong, and my baby needed quiet more than I needed justice. So I hid. I wrapped my belly in thrifted sweaters and learned the schedule of the city. The hour the soup kitchen's line was shortest, the morning the shelter manager looked the other way. Marcus paraded Tasha through rooms I used to polish. She wore my wedding pearls like they'd been waiting for her all along. People clucked their tongues at the tragedy of my life while stepping around me as if grief were contagious. The lie of my death grew roots. It sprouted language, rituals, memory. I became a ghost with a heartbeat. The storm the night Isaiah came sounded like a drumline. Thunder rolled over the river, and the bridge muttered back. I felt the first pull low and mean, and then there was no time to find a cab or a hand to hold. I crawled into an abandoned storage room under the flyover, laid my coat on cracked tiles, and breathed the way the nurse had shown me. Hours unfolded like bad ribbon. I clawed at the world. I bit down on my own wrist and tasted iron. I begged God and my grandmother and unnamed women I'd never met to surround me. Then came the last push, the kind that rips you open and remakes you. A cry, small but certain, split the dark. I gathered him to my chest, a slippery heat, a heartbeat against mine. "Hey, little lion," I gasped, laughter and sobs braided together. Rain hammered above us. A bus rolled by and shook the bones of the bridge. I counted his toes with shaking fingers. 10 miracles. I named him Isaiah, because I needed a name that sounded like an answer. We slept, my body empty and overflowing all at once, the city's roar now a lullaby, the world startlingly new. The years that followed grew teeth. Winter gnawed. Summer burned. I learned to measure time by Isaiah's breaths and the passing of trains. Some days, kindness showed up wearing a stranger's face. A woman slipped me a 5 outside the clinic. A boy with gold fronts brought a bag of oranges and didn't explain why. Other days, the city spit me out. "Get a job," someone hissed, as if I hadn't scrubbed my way through invisible hours. I washed cars in church parking lots, folded linens until my fingers cracked, and checked on Isaiah every 3rd minute, eyes always counting. When he laughed, the sound put sunlight in empty rooms. When he wrapped his small hand around my thumb, the hunger quieted. I told him stories about rivers that carried prayers and women who never broke. He had his father's eyes, which softened me and sharpened me, both. Word about my death spread like gospel. Somewhere in a quiet cemetery sat a stone carved with my name, flowers wilting just so. The lie had symmetry, ceremony, proof. But we had breath. We had each other. At night, I hummed old songs and reminded my heart that it was allowed to keep going.
It did. Barely.
The second rain that saved us came mean and sideways. Water seeped through the seams of our tarp, cold fingers slipping beneath Isaiah's shirt. He coughed, a thin sound, then another. Panic rose hot and fast in my throat. "Hold on, baby," I whispered, rocking him like the motion could warm the air. Headlights cut through the downpour and stopped a few yards away. The sedan's engine sighed off. The door swung open. A tall man in a dark brim hat stepped out, shoulders fighting the rain. Even before his face came into focus, my body knew him. Mr. Langston looked older than the last time. Grief had bleached him around the edges, but his eyes were the same polished onyx. He stared at me like he was watching the dead stand up. "You," his voice failed, then found its way back. "You were supposed to be in the ground." My mouth wouldn't move. Isaiah coughed again, small chest rattling. Something in him, maybe instinct, maybe shame, cracked. He dropped to his knees in the mud. "My son lied," he said, the words shaking. He touched Isaiah's curls with a fingertip like flame. "This boy, he's mine, isn't he?" I nodded. For the first time in years, someone's belief felt like shelter. He stripped off his coat and wrapped it around my shoulders, cashmere against soaked denim, warmth against bone. "Come," he said, voice quiet but edged.
"Now."
I hesitated, feet rooted in fear's old dirt. "I got nothing," I said, shivering. "No papers. No place." He looked at me like he could see all the years sitting on my chest. "You belong to this family," he said, words low and dangerous. "My son can't erase you, and I won't let him erase that child." He half carried me to the car. The leather smelled like cedar and something expensive. Isaiah's head sank into my lap as the heater coughed life back into our skin. Streetlights slid across the window in gold veins. I kept checking the glass for my reflection, terrified it would vanish. We turned past a security booth and up a curving drive lined with wet magnolias. The Langston place rose out of the rain like a story folks tell to impress each other, columns, balconies, too much of everything. Inside, warmth hit like a blessing I didn't think I'd ever feel again. A housekeeper caught sight of us and clapped a hand to her mouth. "Blankets," Mr. Langston snapped. "And call Dr. Patel. Tell him it's my grandson." Isaiah slept under soft light with a doctor's careful hands measuring and listening and nodding. "He's undernourished and chilled," Dr. Patel said, "but strong, resilient." I perched on the edge of the bed, afraid that if I leaned back, I'd be told to leave. No one nudged me. No one said a cruel thing. Mr. Langston stood in the doorway, shoulders squared like he'd put his body between us and the world. When the room emptied, he brought a tray himself, soup steaming, cornbread shining with butter. I ate, and the taste unraveled me. "I failed you," he said, voice hoarse. "I should have asked questions. I should have looked harder. Instead, I let my pride show me a casket and call it truth." I shook my head, spoon trembling. "You believed your son," I said. "You grieved what you were told to grieve." He stared at Isaiah, jaw working. "Marcus will answer for it." The next morning, he took me to a study lined with dark wood and old photographs. My face wasn't on any wall. "I can't undo theft," he said, "but I can return what was stolen going forward. I have a place, quiet, safe. Keys are yours. No reporters. No whispers." He slid the keys across the desk. They rang like a bell. He drove us himself to a cottage by a wide, slow river, a white house with blue shutters and a porch that remembered laughter. Spanish moss combed the air. The place smelled like pine and soap. Inside, the sheets felt like clouds that had agreed to be held. Isaiah toddled after butterflies in the yard and laughed until he hiccuped. Food filled the fridge. New shoes waited by the door. The first night, I slept without hearing sirens. In the evenings, Mr. Langston would sit on the steps, hands folded over his cane, looking like a man counting what he had left and what he'd lost. "Secrets rot a family," he said one dusk, eyes on the river. "If I leave this buried, Marcus's lie will eat through everything I built." I looked at Isaiah chasing his shadow and felt my old fear knock its cup against my ribs. "If you tell it," I said, "you'll break him. You'll break her." He nodded once, no apology in it. Maybe breaking is medicine. Maybe that's the only way to clean the wound. A week later, he told me he was hosting a supper, business and kin. "I will put truth on the table," he said. My pulse stuttered. I lifted my chin. "Then I'll stand in it." The night of the supper, a driver brought us back to Riverbend Heights. I wore a simple navy dress and a scarf my auntie once said made my lips look like good cherries. Isaiah's hand was small and certain inside mine. The chandelier spilled honey over polished floors. People paused mid-laugh when I entered. Forks clinked. A woman with a diamond the size of a gumdrop whispered, "Ain't that but she?" Someone dropped a spoon and it rang. Marcus stood near the head of the table in a suit cut sharp as a sin. Tasha's smile fell right off her face when our eyes met. Marcus stared like a man caught between doors. Mr. Langston cleared his throat and tapped his glass. "Family," he said, voice reaching every corner. "You came to talk business and to celebrate. First, we will handle truth." Air tightened. 2 years ago, many of you comforted me at a service for my daughter-in-law. I cried over a casket that was empty of the person I loved. He let that hang. That funeral was built on a lie. My son lied to me, to all of you, and to God. Heads turned. My body went perfectly still. "Nia Langston is alive," he said. "And my grandson stands here tonight." Isaiah froze, then looked up at me. I smoothed his hair, whispered, "Go on, baby. Grandpa's calling you." He toddled over, and Mr. Langston lifted him high with a tenderness that cracked the room open. "This is Isaiah Langston," he said, eyes daring anyone to blink wrong. "My blood. My air." The room split. Gasps, mutters, a few scattered claps from the brave or the foolish. Marcus's color rose like a tide. "Daddy, this is madness," he hissed. "She's playing you." Silence, Mr. Langston thundered, the sound older than him. "Don't call lies truth in my house." Tasha pressed a napkin to her mouth. I watched a flash of the girl I'd once loved like a sister, and then watched her disappear beneath mascara and choices. "While you two were buying good wine," Mr. Langston said, voice ablade, "this woman delivered your child on cold tile and fed him with hands that shook." He set Isaiah down gently. "From this day, anyone who moves against them moves against me." The conversation didn't resume so much as it rearranged itself, voices trying to find new lanes. I breathed for the first time all night. The chandelier light felt less like judgment and more like sunrise. 2 mornings later, Marcus barged into the cottage suite Mr. Langston had given me. Tasha trailed behind him, mascara smudged like bruises. Isaiah sat on the floor pushing a toy fire truck, making soft siren sounds. "Look at you," Marcus sneered. "Parading a bastard like he's a crown." Isaiah glanced up. "Daddy," he said, hopeful, the word too sweet for the room it entered. Marcus's mouth twitched, hurt, almost human, and then it turned hard. "Don't call me that." Something old and fierce rose in me. "Get out, Marcus." My voice made him pause. Tasha reached toward me like prayer. "Nia, please, don't," I said, steel suddenly easy on my tongue. "You knew what you did." Marcus leaned in close enough for me to smell expensive cologne and fear. "You think this will last? My father is old. When he's gone, this all reverts to me." I smiled, small and true. "You lost the moment you buried me alive." He moved like he might raise a hand. The door opened behind him. Mr. Langston's cane hit the floor like a gavel. "Touch her, and I end you before sundown." Marcus stepped back, breath stuttering. "Pack," Mr. Langston said without looking at him. "And leave my house." Tasha sobbed. The door closed behind their footsteps, soft as forgiveness never given. The house exhaled. Mr. Langston drew up papers, not threats, trusts for Isaiah, deeds in my name, things that don't blow away when a man decides he's tired of you. Staff who'd once whispered brought me orchids and hush. Some meant it, some didn't. I chose to accept what was useful and leave what wasn't. At night, in a room with soft lamps and a window that widened the moon, I grieved the girl who waited 30 years for gentle to show up. Isaiah learned to read on my lap, tracing each word like it, too, could be lost and found. He grew tall, then taller, his kindness stubborn, his laughter unbothered. He carried the Langston name like it was a promise he personally intended to keep. Rumors about Marcus and Tasha rode the wind. Business deals gone crooked, a condo sold fast, arguments loud enough for hallways to memorize. I didn't open the door to those stories. Not every ghost is dangerous.
Some you let drift.
Once, when Mr. Langston's hands trembled pouring tea, he said, "You saved this family." I touched his wrist. We saved each other. He died years later with Isaiah's hand in his, pride softening his face. A good ending for a man who chose truth. Time did not hand back what it stole. It never does. But it taught me a new arithmetic. How joy can live alongside scar, how love can grow in the field where betrayal tried to salt the earth. Sometimes, in quiet moments, Isaiah would lean into me, taller than the doorframe now, and ask about the bridge, about the rain, about the woman I was. I told him the truth without making a home for bitterness. One night, when he was little, he asked, "Mama, why don't Daddy love me?" The question opened me the way labor had. "Baby," I said, brushing his hair off his forehead. "He doesn't know how. That's not on you. That's not on me. That's a hole in him." Isaiah nodded, as if he'd been expecting me to say that. He went asleep like it was a decision. And me? I stopped measuring myself by what failed to grow and started counting what did. A boy with eyes like morning, a name restored, a spine that didn't bend under lies. If you're reading this, remember, darkness is loud but not eternal. Secrets dissolve in light. When it breaks, because it will, stand up. Step forward. Let your name ring. Let your life answer back. Thank you for watching. Please like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories like this.